The alarm bells rang through the great council halls of Nexus Prime. Ambassador Na ran down the long corridor, her blue skin shining with sweat. The message she carried would change everything. Behind her, the sounds of panic grew louder as more aliens learned the terrible news. The Vextar Empire had broken through. 3 worlds had fallen in 3 days. Millions were dead. Na burst through the doors of the Grand Council chamber. Inside, hundreds of beings from dozens of species sat in their floating chairs. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked like walking trees. All of them looked scared. Council Leader Bo stood at the center of the room. His green reptilian face was grim. "The reports are confirmed," he said in a deep voice. "The Talarian defense line has collapsed. The Vextar bioships have destroyed our strongest fleets." A wave of fear rolled through the chamber. Some aliens made clicking sounds, others hissed, and many just sat in silence. The Vextar were unlike any enemy they had faced before. Their ships were alive, made of flesh and bone that could heal and adapt. Every time the galactic forces found a new weapon, the Vextar would change to resist it. Admiral Wu, a tall alien with 4 arms and gray skin, stepped forward. "Our remaining fleets are scattered across 12 systems," he reported. "Most of our ships are damaged. Our crews are losing hope. The Vextar adapt to our weapons faster than we can build new ones." "How many ships do they have left?" asked Na. "Last count showed over 50,000 bioships," Wu replied. "And they keep making more. Every world they take gives them more resources to grow their fleet." The chamber fell silent. 50,000 ships was more than the entire Galactic Defense Force had ever built. And unlike normal ships, the Vextar vessels could repair themselves and become stronger after each battle. An alien that looked like a giant spider raised one of its 8 legs. "What about the Omega Protocol?" it asked in a voice like breaking glass. Bo shook his head. "The Omega weapons failed on Kelros Prime. The Vextar absorbed the energy and used it to make their ships bigger. We gave them exactly what they needed to grow stronger." Na felt her hope dying. The Omega Protocol was their most powerful weapon, planet-killing energy beams that could destroy entire fleets. If even that had failed, what else could they try? A young communications officer named Lee stepped forward. He looked nervous as he spoke to the greatest leaders in the galaxy. "Sir, there might be one option we haven't tried." "Speak," Bo commanded. Lee touched his tablet and a star map appeared in the air above them. A large section of space was marked in red. "The human exclusion zone," he said. "The Vextar fleets avoid this area completely. They go around it even when it would be faster to go through." Several aliens made angry sounds. "The humans?" scoffed Admiral Wu. "They rejected our invitation to join civilized space 50 years ago. They still use primitive kinetic weapons instead of proper energy systems." "They're barbarians," added another alien. "They solve problems by hitting things with metal instead of using elegant solutions." Na studied the map more carefully. The human exclusion zone was huge, hundreds of star systems that the humans had claimed as their own. More importantly, it was the one place in the galaxy where the Vextar refused to go. "Why do the Vextar avoid human space?" she asked. Lee pulled up more data. "Unknown, sir. Our records show that the Vextar sent a small scouting force into the zone about 20 years ago. They never came back. Since then, the Vextar won't go near human territory." "Maybe the humans destroyed the scouts," suggested Na. "With what?" laughed another admiral. "Humans use bullets and explosives. The Vextar can adapt to anything." But Na was thinking. The humans had always been strange. When first contact happened, they had been polite but distant. They shared some basic technology, medical supplies, some simple machines, but refused to join the galactic community. They said they preferred to handle their own problems. Most aliens thought this meant humans were too primitive to understand advanced civilization. But what if it meant something else? "How long would it take to send a message to Earth?" Na asked. Lee checked his systems. "About 6 hours, sir. But the humans rarely respond to our communications." Bo looked around the chamber. Fear and desperation filled every face. "We're out of options," he said slowly. "Our fleets are broken. Our weapons don't work. And the Vextar are moving toward the core worlds." Na stood up. "I propose we send an emergency message to the human government. We ask for their help." The chamber exploded with angry voices. Many aliens thought this was a terrible idea. Humans were seen as violent and unpredictable. Their technology was considered old and useless. "They'll want something in return," warned one alien. "What could they possibly want from us?" asked another. Their technology is centuries behind ours. But Bo raised his hand for silence. Ambassador Na is right. We have no other choice. He looked directly at her. What do you propose we tell them? Na thought carefully. Humans were direct creatures. They didn't like complicated politics or fancy words. We tell them the truth. The galaxy is dying. Join the fight or watch everything burn. And if they refuse? Asked Wu. Then we evacuate what we can to the outer rim and hope the Vextar get bored before they find us. Na replied. Bo nodded slowly. Do it, send the message. Lee's fingers moved over his tablet. What exactly should I say? Na walked to the center of the chamber. Send this. The Galactic Council requests immediate military assistance. The Vextar Empire threatens all life in the galaxy. Please help. Then add the tactical data about their fleet movements and our failed defenses. That's it? Asked Lee. Humans like simple messages, Na explained. The message was sent. For 6 hours the council waited. Many aliens used the time to argue about evacuation plans or surrender terms. Some thought they should prepare for the worst. Then Lee's tablet chimed. A message had arrived from Earth. It was short, just one word repeated in dozens of languages. Coming. The chamber fell silent. No conditions, no questions, no demands for payment. Just a simple promise. Admiral Wu looked confused. That's all they said? Na smiled for the first time in days. That's all they needed to say. Outside the chamber, the alarm bells continued to ring. But now, for the first time since the war began, they sounded like hope instead of doom. Captain Jin stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, watching Earth grow smaller through the main window. Around his ship, 200 other vessels moved in perfect formation. They looked different from the sleek alien ships he had seen in the database. Human ships were blocky and practical, covered in armor plates and weapons that stuck out like thorns. All ships report ready for hyperspace jump, announced communications officer, Han from her station. Jin nodded but didn't give the order yet. This moment had been 50 years in the making. While the galaxy thought humans were simple and primitive, Earth had been preparing for exactly this kind of war. You, bring up the tactical analysis, Jin ordered. Science Officer Yu touched his control panel and holographic displays filled the bridge. Charts and graphs showed everything humanity had learned about the Vextar Empire. The aliens in the galaxy thought humans had been hiding in their little corner of space, but they were wrong. Humans had been watching, learning, and preparing. The Vextar bioships use living tissue that can adapt to any energy weapon, Yu explained. When hit by lasers, they grow reflective skin. When hit by plasma, they develop heat resistance. When hit by particle beams, they create magnetic deflectors. Engineer Tay looked up from her station. Good thing we don't use any of those, Jin smiled. While other species had moved on to exotic energy weapons, humans had perfected something much simpler, throwing things very, very hard. Show them the test results from Europa Station, Jin said. Yu pulled up a video from the human moon Europa. It showed a mock-up of a Vextar bioship being hit by a human railgun. The metal slug moved so fast it was invisible. When it hit the target, the entire fake ship exploded into pieces. Kinetic energy cannot be adapted to, Yu continued. When something hits you at 50,000 kilometers per second, evolution doesn't matter. Physics wins. The bridge crew watched the video again. Unlike the fancy alien weapons that could be absorbed or deflected, human weapons simply punched holes through things. No energy to absorb, no exotic particles to deflect. Just solid matter moving at incredible speed. What about their numbers? Asked Navigator Park. Intelligence reports say they have over 50,000 ships. Jin walked to the tactical display. Red dots showed the position of every known Vextar vessel. There were so many red dots that some parts of the galaxy looked like they were bleeding. Tay, explain the Storm-class modifications, Jin ordered. Engineer Tay stood up proudly. Each Storm-class vessel carries 200 relativistic impactor rounds. That's tungsten slugs accelerated to 15% of light speed. Each round carries enough kinetic energy to crack a moon. She pointed to the human fleet outside. Half of the ships were the new Storm-class vessels, built specifically for this war. They looked like flying weapons platforms covered in railgun barrels and electromagnetic launchers. We also have the electromagnetic pulse generators, Tay continued. Vexitar bioships use electrical signals in their nervous systems. Our EMP weapons can scramble their brains from 1,000 kilometers away. And if they try to run? Asked Park. Gravitational anchors, Tay replied with a grin. We locked down local spacetime. Nothing goes to hyperspace without our permission. Jin was proud of his crew and his ship, while the aliens had spent centuries making their weapons more and more complex. Humans had focused on making theirs more and more effective. Sometimes the best solution was also the simplest one. Sir, incoming message from Admiral Chen, Han announced. The face of Admiral Chen appeared on the main screen. She was the commander of the entire Terran Defense Force, a tough woman who had spent her career preparing for this day. Jin, you're about to make first contact with an enemy that has conquered half the galaxy, Chen said. Remember what we learned from the Proxima War games. Hit them hard, hit them fast, and don't give them time to adapt. Understood, Admiral, Jin replied. What about the alien allies? They'll be watching everything we do. Show them that humans don't play games. Make it clear that Earth is not to be messed with. The communication ended. Jin looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were men and women who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Every human ship carried crews who knew their jobs perfectly. What do we know about Vextar psychology? Jin asked. You pulled up more data. They're a hive mind species. Individual Vextar aren't very smart, but together they form a collective intelligence. They've never lost a major battle because they learn from every attack and adapt. What happens when they face something they can't adapt to? Asked Jin. Unknown, sir. It's never happened before. Jin walked back to his captain's chair. Through the window, he could see the other human ships. Each one carried weapons that the galaxy had forgotten about. Railguns, mass drivers, kinetic penetrators, and electromagnetic weapons. Simple, brutal, and completely unstoppable. The aliens think we're primitive, Jin said to his crew. They think we're backwards because we use bullets instead of energy beams. They're about to learn why humans conquered their entire solar system before they even invented the wheel. The crew chuckled. Human history was full of wars, and humans had gotten very good at winning them. While other species had evolved past physical conflict, humans had never forgotten the basic truth. In a fight, the one who hits hardest usually wins. Sir, all ships report ready for combat operations, Han announced. Tay, what's the status of our weapons? All railguns charged and ready. EMP generators at full power. Gravitational anchors online. Tungsten rounds loaded and targeted. Tay's voice was calm and professional. Jin took a deep breath. In a few hours, they would drop out of hyperspace in the middle of the biggest battle in galactic history. The Vextar had never faced humans before. They had no idea what was coming. All ships, this is Captain Jin, he announced on the fleet channel. We're about to show the galaxy what humans do best. Remember your training. Trust your weapons. And let's make sure these bugs understand that Earth protects its neighbors. 200 ships replied at once. For Earth and humanity. You plot the jump to the Deneb system. Maximum speed. Course plotted and ready, sir. Jin sat in his captain's chair and gripped the armrests. 50 years of preparation were about to be tested. The galaxy was about to learn that humans had never been primitive. They had just been patient. All ships jump. The stars stretched into lines and the human fleet disappeared into hyperspace. Behind them, Earth continued its orbit around the sun, peaceful and quiet. But the weapons platforms hidden throughout the solar system remained active, ready to defend humanity's home. The galaxy was about to change forever. The Deneb system was dying. Admiral Wu watched from his command ship as the last defense station exploded in a ball of fire. Around the system, thousands of Vextar bioships moved like a swarm of angry insects. Their living hulls pulsed with dark energy as they tore apart everything in their path. Sir, the orbital platforms are gone, reported his tactical officer. The Vextar have broken through our final line. Wu's forearms gripped his command chair as another explosion lit up the darkness. This was the largest Vextar fleet ever seen. Over 30,000 bioships working together like parts of a single massive organism. Every ship they had destroyed only made the swarm stronger as the survivors absorbed the wreckage. Status of the evacuation? Wu asked. Civilian transports are still loading, his communications officer replied. We need another 6 hours. We don't have 6 hours, Wu said grimly. The Vextar would reach the planet in 2 hours. Once they landed, 10 billion civilians would become food for the swarm. Suddenly, every sensor on the bridge started screaming warnings. Something massive was dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. New contacts, shouted the sensor operator. 200 ships, unknown configuration. On the main screen, sleek vessels appeared in perfect formation. Unlike the smooth curves of galactic ships or the organic shapes of Vextar bioships, these newcomers looked like flying weapons. They were covered in armor and bristled with strange guns. "Are they more Vextar?" asked Wu. "Negative, sir. They're human ships." Wu felt his heart skip a beat. The humans had actually come. Around the bridge, his crew stared at the tactical display in amazement. The human fleet had arranged itself in a perfect sphere around the entire Vextar swarm. "Incoming transmission," announced the communications officer. A human face appeared on the screen. It was Captain Jin, though Wu had never seen a human before. The alien admiral was surprised by how calm the human looked, considering he was facing the largest enemy fleet in galactic history. "This is Captain Jin of the Terran Defense Force," the human said in clear galactic standard. "Admiral Wu, please pull your ships back to minimum safe distance." "Captain Jin, there are 30,000 enemy vessels out there," Wu replied. "Your fleet will be destroyed." Jin smiled, and Wu was surprised to see that the expression looked almost predatory. "Admiral, you might want to watch this." The human ships began to move. Instead of charging forward like every other species would do, they spread out even further. Each human vessel took position at exact mathematical points around the Vextar swarm. On the Vextar command bioship, the hive mind felt confusion for the first time in its existence. These new creatures were unknown. Their ships gave off no energy signatures that could be analyzed. Their weapons were completely unfamiliar. The hive mind sent a probe thought to its swarm. New prey approaches. Analyze and adapt. Thousands of bioships turned toward the human fleet. Living sensors studied the human vessels, trying to understand their capabilities. The results made no sense. The humans used primitive metal projectiles instead of energy weapons. Their ships were slow and clumsy compared to Vextar bioships. The hive mind decided these creatures would be easy to destroy. "Unknown vessels," the Vextar transmitted in their clicking language. "Submit to absorption. Your distinctiveness will be added to our collective." Captain Jin's response was heard throughout the system. "This is the Terran Defense Force. You have 30 seconds to withdraw from this system, or we will demonstrate why humans don't play with energy toys." The Vexitar response was swift and brutal. Thousands of bioships launched streams of adaptive plasma that could melt through any known armor. Swarms of boarding organisms flew toward the human ships like living missiles. Energy drains reached out to shut down human power systems, and absolutely nothing happened. The plasma struck the human ships and simply disappeared. The boarding organisms bounced off electromagnetic barriers like insects hitting a window. The energy drains found nothing to drain because human ships didn't use the exotic power systems they were designed to disrupt. Admiral Wu watched in amazement as 30,000 attacks failed completely. "How are they doing that?" On the human ships, the crews calmly went about their work. The Vextar weapons had been exactly what they expected: energy-based attacks that could be easily defended against electromagnetic shields holding at 98%, reported Engineer Tay aboard the Indomitable. "Their plasma can't get through our magnetic fields." "Boarding. Organisms neutralized," added Tactical Officer Sol. "They can't survive in our electromagnetic barrier." Fields, Captain Jin watched the failed Vextar attack with satisfaction. Everything was going according to plan. "All ships, this is Jin. You are weapons free. Show them what real weapons look like." Throughout the human fleet, weapons that had been charging for hours finally fired. 200 ships released their full arsenal at exactly the same moment. Tungsten rounds accelerated to incredible speeds by electromagnetic railguns. Each projectile carried more kinetic energy than most starship engines produced in a year. The rounds were invisible, moving too fast for sensors to track properly. But their effects were impossible to miss. The first Vextar bioship simply vanished. One moment it was there, the next it was an expanding cloud of superheated gas. The tungsten round had transferred so much kinetic energy that the ship's matter had been converted to plasma. Then the second ship died. Then the third, then hundreds more. Unlike energy weapons that could be adapted to, kinetic rounds followed simple physics. When something traveling at 50,000 kilometers per second hits something else, the target ceases to exist. There was no defense, no adaptation, no evolution that could change the laws of physics. In 18 seconds, the largest enemy fleet in galactic history was reduced to glowing debris. The hive mind experienced something it had never felt before. terror. For millions of years, it had adapted to every threat. Energy weapons, exotic particles, even nuclear fire, all could be absorbed and used to grow stronger. But these humans had used something the hive mind couldn't understand or adapt to. They had weaponized the fundamental forces of the universe itself. Admiral Wu stared at his tactical display in shock. Where 30,000 enemy ships had been moments before, now there was only expanding gas and metal fragments. The entire Vextar fleet had been destroyed in less than 20 seconds. "Sir," his sensor operator said in a shaking voice, "I'm reading no intact Vextar vessels. 0 survivors." Captain Jin's voice came over the communication channel again. "Admiral Wu, the system is secure. You can resume your evacuation operations." "Captain Jin," Wu replied, his voice filled with awe. "What did you just do?" "We threw rocks at them," Jin replied simply. Really, really fast rocks. In the depths of space, a few damaged Vextar bioships that had been at the edge of the formation tried to escape to hyperspace. But the human gravitational anchors held them in place like insects in amber. "Sir, 3 enemy ships attempting to flee," reported Sol. "Can't have that," Jin replied. "Finish them." 3 more tungsten rounds flashed across space. 3 more bioships ceased to exist. For the first time in their million-year history, the Vextar Empire had suffered a complete defeat. Not a single ship had escaped to report what had happened. Admiral Wu looked at the tactical display where the impossible had just occurred. The most powerful enemy in galactic history had been destroyed by humans using what everyone considered primitive weapons. Maybe primitive wasn't the right word after all. Captain Ree floated through the broken corridors of the damaged Vextar bioship, her magnetic boots clicking against the metal deck plating. Behind her, a squad of human marines followed with their weapons ready. This was the first time any galactic species had ever boarded a living Vextar vessel. The ship was dying. Organic walls that should have been pulsing with life hung limp and gray. Biomechanical systems sparked and leaked strange fluids. The air smelled like burning metal and rotting meat. "Thermal sensors show life signs ahead," reported Sergeant Bin through his helmet radio. "They're not moving much." Ree nodded and pushed forward through a membrane that served as a door. What she found on the other side made her stop in amazement. Dozens of Vextar creatures huddled in the corners of what had once been their command center. The insectoid beings that had terrorized the galaxy for decades were cowering like frightened animals. Their usual clicking and buzzing had been replaced by soft whimpering sounds. "Incredible," Ree whispered. "They're scared." The largest Vextar, probably the ship's captain, looked up at her with compound eyes that reflected fear. When it spoke, its translator produced words that no galactic military had ever heard from a Vextar before. "Please don't hurt us." Ree activated her communicator. "Captain Jin, you need to hear this." Back on the Indomitable, Captain Jin listened to the reports from all the boarding teams. The same thing was happening on every damaged Vextar ship they had found. The creatures that had been unstoppable killing machines were now begging for mercy. "Sir, this doesn't make sense," said Science Officer Yu. "Vextar don't surrender. Their biology doesn't allow it. They're programmed to fight to the death." "What changed?" asked Jin. Yu pulled up his analysis of the battle. For the first time in their species' history, they faced something they couldn't adapt to. Their entire evolutionary strategy is based on learning from attacks and becoming stronger. But you can't evolve past physics. Engineer Tay looked up from her station. The kinetic rounds didn't just destroy their ships. They destroyed their whole understanding of how warfare works. Jin understood. The Vextar had spent millions of years believing that any threat could be overcome through adaptation. They had faced energy weapons, exotic particles, and even planet-killing devices. Each time they had grown stronger. But humans had done something different. They had used the fundamental forces of the universe, forces that couldn't be adapted to or evolved past. When a chunk of tungsten hit something at 50,000 kilometers per second, biology became irrelevant. It's broken their minds, Jin realized. They can't comprehend an enemy they can't adapt to. On the surface of Deneb Prime, Ambassador Na stood in the command center watching the orbital displays. Around her, aliens from dozens of species stared at the tactical screens in shock. Where the largest enemy fleet in history had been threatening their world, now there was only empty space and debris. "Ambassador," said Communications Officer Lee, "we're getting reports from across the galaxy. Vextar fleets everywhere have stopped attacking. They're just..." sitting there. Na studied the galactic map. Red dots that had been moving aggressively toward populated worlds had all stopped moving. What are they doing? Unknown, ma'am. Some are transmitting surrender requests. Others are just floating in space like they're confused. Admiral Wu joined them at the command center. His forearms were shaking slightly. He still couldn't believe what he had witnessed. The humans destroyed 30,000 bioships in 18 seconds, he said quietly. How is that possible? Na pulled up the human fleet data on her screen. We thought their technology was primitive because they use kinetic weapons instead of energy systems. We were wrong. How were we wrong? Asked Wu. Science Officer Mi, a small furry alien, stepped forward with a tablet full of calculations. I've been analyzing the human weapons. Each kinetic round they fired carried more destructive force than our largest plasma cannons. But instead of using exotic energy that can be absorbed or deflected, they just threw metal really, really hard. That's it? Asked Lee. They just throw things. At relativistic speeds, Mi continued. When you accelerate matter to significant fractions of light speed, it becomes unstoppable. No armor can resist that much kinetic energy. No evolution can adapt to basic physics. Na was beginning to understand. While the galaxy had spent centuries developing more and more complex weapons, humans had perfected the simplest weapon of all, hitting things with rocks. But they had made those rocks move so fast that nothing could survive the impact. Sir, incoming transmission from the Vextar Empire, Lee announced. The main screen lit up with an image that shocked everyone in the room. It was a Vextar hive queen, one of the massive creatures that controlled entire fleets. But instead of the usual aggressive posture, she was prostrated in what looked like a surrender position. Galactic Council, the Queen transmitted in a voice full of defeat. The hive mind requests terms for surrender. The command center fell silent. In a million years of galactic history, the Vextar had never surrendered to anyone. What terms do you propose? Na asked carefully. We will withdraw from all conquered territories. We will cease all aggressive actions. We ask only that the humans not destroy our remaining fleets. Admiral Wu stepped forward. Why are you surrendering? You still have thousands of ships across the galaxy. The Hive Queen's compound eyes seemed to focus on something far away. Because we finally understand what we are facing. For millions of years, we believed we could adapt to any threat. We absorbed energy weapons and grew stronger. We resisted exotic particles and became immune. We thought we were the ultimate evolution of warfare. Her voice became smaller, almost frightened. But the humans use something we cannot adapt to. They use the laws of physics themselves as weapons. You cannot evolve past mathematics. You cannot adapt to fundamental forces. They could destroy our entire species, and there is nothing we could do to stop them. Na exchanged glances with the other council members. The most feared enemy in galactic history was terrified of humans. The humans have shown us that there are some things more powerful than evolution. The Queen continued. We submit to their superior force. The transmission ended. The command center remained quiet as everyone processed what they had just heard. Finally, Admiral Wu spoke. So the humans weren't primitive at all? No, Na replied. They were just using a completely different approach to warfare. While we made our weapons more complex, they made theirs more effective. Science Officer Mi was still studying his tablet. Sir, I'm detecting some interesting readings from the human fleet. What kind of readings? Asked Na. Their ships are equipped with technology we've never seen before. Gravitational manipulation systems, electromagnetic pulse generators powerful enough to scramble bioneural networks, and what looks like space-time anchor points. Na realized the full scope of what had happened. They weren't just prepared for the Vextar. They were prepared for any threat. The question is, said Wu, what do they want in return for saving the galaxy? Outside in space, the human fleet maintained its perfect formation around the debris field that had once been the largest enemy fleet in history. On each ship, crews calmly went about their duties as if destroying 30,000 enemy vessels was just another day at the office. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had never been hiding from advanced civilization. They had been preparing to protect it. The Grand Council chamber had never been so quiet. Ambassador Na looked around at the hundreds of alien representatives, all sitting in stunned silence as they waited for the humans to speak. 3 days had passed since the Battle of Deneb, and the galaxy was still trying to understand what had happened. Captain Jin walked into the chamber wearing a simple blue uniform. Behind him came 5 other humans, his senior officers. They looked calm and relaxed, as if they hadn't just ended the greatest war in galactic history. Admiral Wu stood up to address the assembly. Captain Jin, the Galactic Council wishes to formally thank humanity for your assistance in defeating the Vextar Empire. Jin nodded politely. The threat has been neutralized. The galaxy is safe. We need to discuss terms for human membership in the Galactic Federation, said Council Leader Bo. What does Earth want in exchange for joining our civilization? Jin exchanged glances with his officers. Engineer Ho stepped forward with a tablet in her hands. Actually, we'd like to propose some changes to how this civilization operates. Murmurs of confusion rippled through the chamber. Most aliens had expected the humans to ask for territory, resources, or technology. Changes to galactic civilization was not what they had anticipated. What kind of changes? Asked Na Science Officer Yu activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. It showed a map of the galaxy with current military positions marked in different colors. For the past 1,000 years, galactic species have been locked in an arms race, Yu explained. Each time someone develops a new weapon, everyone else has to develop counters to that weapon. Then someone makes a better weapon and the cycle continues. This is the normal progress of military technology, protested Admiral Wu. No, said Jin firmly. It's waste. While you've been building increasingly complex weapons that can be countered by other complex weapons, real threats like the Vextar have been growing stronger. Engineer Ho pulled up technical specifications. Look at your current military technology. Plasma cannons that can be reflected by magnetic fields. Particle beams that can be absorbed by energy converters. Exotic matter weapons that can be neutralized by dimensional shields. Every weapon you build can be defended against, added Yu. So you build bigger weapons, which leads to bigger defenses, which leads to even bigger weapons. Meanwhile, simple solutions get ignored. Na was beginning to understand. You're saying our approach to military technology is flawed? Not flawed, Jin corrected. Overcomplicated. Sometimes the best solution is also the simplest solution. Captain Rhee stepped forward. We've been monitoring galactic military development for 50 years. Your weapons are impressive, but they're all vulnerable to adaptation and countermeasures. You've forgotten the basic principle of warfare, which is, asked Bo. Overwhelming force applied efficiently, Rhee replied. It doesn't matter how advanced your enemy's defenses are if you hit them hard enough with something they can't defend against. The chamber fell silent as the aliens processed this information. For centuries, they had prided themselves on their sophisticated military technology. The humans were suggesting that sophisticated wasn't always better. What do you propose? Asked Na. Jin walked to the center of the chamber. Earth doesn't want territory or resources. We want something more important, an end to the galactic arms race. He gestured to the holographic display. We propose a new approach to galactic defense. Instead of every species building their own exotic weapons, we establish a unified defense force based on proven principles. Kinetic weapons? Asked Wu skeptically. Kinetic weapons, electromagnetic systems, and gravitational manipulation, confirmed Engineer Ho. Technologies that work regardless of what kind of enemy you're facing because they're based on fundamental physics. Science Officer, Yu pulled up more data. We've been analyzing threats throughout galactic history. In every case, the enemy was eventually defeated not by exotic weapons, but by superior application of basic principles. The Zethkari invasion was stopped by mass drivers, Yu continued. The Crystal Empire fell to electromagnetic pulse weapons. The Void Collective was defeated by gravitational weapons that prevented them from escaping to other dimensions. Na studied the historical data. Yu was right. In every major conflict, the final victory had come from simple, brutal effectiveness rather than technological complexity. What about the Vextar? She asked. Perfect example, said Jin. Everyone tried to fight them with energy weapons that they could adapt to. We used kinetic weapons that couldn't be adapted to. Result, total victory in 18 seconds. Commander Jaw stepped forward from the back of the chamber. Are you saying that human weapons are superior to all galactic technology? We're saying that human weapons are effective against all threats because they don't rely on exotic physics that can be countered, Jin replied. A tungsten rod moving at 50,000 kilometers per second will destroy anything it hits, regardless of that target's technological level. The aliens looked uncomfortable. Many species had spent enormous resources developing their advanced weapons. The humans were suggesting that all of that development had been unnecessary. "What specifically are you proposing?" asked Bo. Ho activated a new display showing human defensive installations. "Earth will share our technology with any species that agrees to the non-aggression compact. In exchange, those species will standardize their military technology on proven effective systems." "And if someone refuses?" asked an alien from the back of the chamber. Jin's expression became serious. "Then they're free to continue building exotic weapons that don't work. But they won't receive protection from the Terran Defense Force." "Protection from what?" asked Na. "The Vextar have surrendered." "The Vextar were just one threat," said Yu. "Our long-range sensors have detected 17 other hostile civilizations beyond the galactic rim. Some of them make the Vextar look peaceful." The chamber erupted in alarmed voices. Several aliens demanded to know why the humans hadn't shared this information sooner. "Because you weren't ready to hear it," Jin replied calmly. "Your military technology couldn't handle the Vextar. How could it handle something worse?" Na felt a chill run down her spine. "How much worse?" "You pulled up sensor data from the deep space monitoring stations that humans had secretly placed throughout the galaxy. One civilization we've designated as Devourers has technology that can consume entire star systems. Another group called the Reality Shapers can rewrite the laws of physics in localized areas. And you can fight these threats?" asked Wu. "With the right weapons and tactics, yes," Jin confirmed. "Kinetic weapons work regardless of local physics. Gravitational anchors prevent reality manipulation. Electromagnetic pulses disrupt exotic matter systems." Engineer Ho smiled grimly. "While the galaxy has been developing beautiful, elegant weapons, Earth has been developing ugly, effective ones." The chamber fell silent again as the aliens realized the scope of what they were facing. The humans hadn't just saved them from the Vextar. They had been preparing to save them from threats the galaxy didn't even know existed. "What are your terms?" asked Na finally. Jin gestured to his officers, who began distributing data tablets to the alien representatives. "Simple. Any species that signs the compact agrees to 3 things. No development of exotic weapons that can be easily countered, no aggressive actions against other compact members, and cooperation in defending against external threats. In exchange?" asked Bo. "Full access to human defensive technology, protection by the Terran Defense Force, and a guarantee that Earth will come if you're threatened by something you can't handle." Na looked at the data tablet. The human terms were surprisingly reasonable. No demands for territory, no requirements for tribute, no political control. Just an agreement to work together and avoid building weapons that didn't work. "The compact is voluntary," Jin continued. "Any species can withdraw at any time, but once you leave, you're on your own." Admiral Wu was studying the technical specifications of human weapons. "These gravitational anchors, they can really lock down hyperspace?" "Demonstrated yesterday at Deneb," confirmed Ho. "Nothing goes to hyperspace without our permission." "And the electromagnetic pulse generators?" "Can scramble any bioneural or electronic system from 1,000 kilometers away." Wu looked impressed despite himself. "And you're willing to share all of this?" "With species that agree to use it responsibly," Jin replied. Na made her decision. The Nexus Republic agrees to join the compact. One by one, other species voiced their agreement. Within an hour, most of the galaxy had signed on to humanity's new paradigm. As the formal signing ceremony concluded, Jin gathered his officers to leave. Na approached him before he could reach the door. "Captain Jin, why didn't you tell us about these other threats sooner?" Jin stopped and looked back at the chamber full of aliens who were now studying human technical manuals. "Because you needed to see that your current approach didn't work. Sometimes people only change when they have to, and now we have to?" "Now you understand that the universe is a dangerous place," Jin replied. "Pretty weapons won't protect you from ugly realities, but effective weapons will." As the human delegation left the chamber, Na realized that everything had changed. The galaxy had spent centuries trying to become more sophisticated. The humans had reminded,